Good afternoon and welcome. I'm thrilled to have this opportunity to talk with all of you about a new vision of leadership. For those who don't know me, my name is Lauren Leck, and I'm currently the principal at Moreau Catholic High School, but the soon-to-be new head of school at the Academy of Our Lady of Peace. So today we have the opportunity to talk a little bit about leadership, and I know this is just a short talk, but I'm hoping that from this you'll take away some key ideas that you can utilize throughout the year as you talk about leadership and consider opportunities for leadership. So as I was thinking about those images that I grew up with as a young student and a young girl, the first images that came to mind were these pictures of the princesses. I know probably for you as well, these were those first early images of women that I saw, or images I watched on TV or read about, images in media, and the young women I couldn't wait to meet at Disneyland. Over the years, Disney's images of princesses have certainly shifted, and also what they are working towards or what they're hoping for. The days of Sleeping Beauty and Snow White have morphed into now a young woman who holds a bow and arrow and who can climb to the top of the mountain and drink from the waterfall that only the greatest kings have ever drank from. Disney's image of what a princess means has certainly shifted over the years. And I offer this up as Disney's 2013 image of what a princess could be. So as you watch this video clip, I'd ask you to either on a piece of paper take note of some of the words that stand out to you, or just listen to what really rings for you as you listen to this clip.
I am a princess. I am brave sometimes. I am scared sometimes. Sometimes I am brave even when I am scared. I believe in loyalty and trust. I believe loyalty is built on trust. I try to be kind. I try to be generous. I am kind even when others are not so generous. I am a princess. I think standing up for myself is important. I think standing up for others is more important. But standing with others is most important. I am a princess. I believe compassion makes me strong. Kindness is power. And family is the tightest bond of all. I have heard I am beautiful. I know I am strong.
I promise. And when I promise something, I never, ever break that promise.
I am a princess. Long may I reign.
So I'm not sure which word stood out for you as you were listening to that video clip, but there were a number of different things that if someone were to call me a princess, I'd want to be known by them. Being strong, being brave, kindness is power. The other words that really resonated with me is that we are supposed to stand up for ourselves, but what's even more important is to stand up for others. And what's most important is to stand with others. As you look at this list of words on the screen in front of you, I want you to take a moment and look at those characteristics. To me, these are words that talk about leadership. Now, of course, the princesses were a part of my growing up, but I also had a mom who was invested in making sure that she took the time, whether it be at the dinner table, in carpool, anywhere we were, to talk about the other examples of women that were making a difference in our world. Women like Margaret Thatcher, who's the first woman British Prime Minister, or Madeleine Albright, the first U.S. Secretary of State. Women that were trailblazers in their own right and forged a pathway for other women to come before and after them. Also women like Abigail in the Bible, someone with such grace and determination that stepped out in courage to protect her family and her community, going before King David and begging for mercy. These are all women that have made a difference. So today I want to talk about 4 things about leadership. First, I want to talk about transformational leadership. I know some of you might have heard this before, others have not. So my goal is to hopefully introduce you to this new concept and allow you to have some takeaways. Also, we're going to talk briefly about servant leadership, challenges of leadership, and opportunities for us here at OLP. So to begin with, I want to talk about transformational leadership. And I love this picture of the penguins marching forth, because the idea of transformational leadership is one that involves a vision, a clear idea of where you're going, but the quintessential element is that others are coming along with you. So this graphic talks a little bit about those hallmarks of what a transformational leader is. So at the first, you'll see that it's about finding your voice. What are the issues that you want to invest in and believe in? And then envisioning a future as a result of that change initiative, looking for opportunities and taking risks. But then the quintessential part is fostering that collaboration, bringing others along, and then recognizing their contributions. So the key with transformational leadership is not only finding that change initiative and leading in that way, but also bringing others along. One of the examples that I think of is Esther. The story of Esther in the Bible has certainly been one that I think many of us have talked about or read. What's interesting about Esther is that she's very different from the queen who came before her, Vashti, who was certainly out in the limelight and well known by everyone. Esther, actually in Hebrew, one of the meanings of Hadass, is actually hidden. And when we think about Esther, this was a woman that was quite comfortable hiding in the shadows. But because of what she had to do, what she was compelled to do, she found her voice, and with the help of Mordecai, brought King Xerxes along to see a new vision and ultimately saved her people. This is a woman who was concerned and trepidatious at first, but stood out with grace and with courage to make a difference. I think for so many of us, being a leader is hard, but the idea of bringing others along, that's where true power and leadership really lies. When we think about leading as a young person, sometimes we think, well, maybe that's what I'll do later. But I want you to read this percentage. Approximately half of the world's population is under 25. That's you. In many countries, youth under the age of 20 account for a third of the population. If you don't lead as a young person now, our world will not be changed. You have to take on that role and endeavor to make a difference now in our communities and in our school. And it takes that first step here at OLP. Every time you walk in those halls, knowing that what you are doing could make a difference. Certainly as educators, we want you to go out and change the world as you graduate. But it starts now. It starts being a leader amongst your peers, listening, finding those causes on your campuses that need to be changed, whether it be around bullying or issues of girls being mean to one another. Could even be issues around studying or tutoring, or girls who are struggling in their family lives. Whatever the cause is, transformational leadership is about taking these on, finding your voice, and enlisting others to make a difference. I urge you to lean in. Many of you might not recognize this picture, but it is a woman who has now become well known for this phrase, lean in. Her name is Sheryl Sandberg, and she is the COO of a small company you might have heard of called Facebook. Prior to being at Facebook, she actually worked for another small startup, Google, and has published recently a book called Lean In, where she talks about the issues related to women in leadership. I want to put forth some of the statistics that she talks about in her book. Right now, women today earn 60% of the college degrees compared with men, but hold only 14% of the top American jobs. Out of 190 heads of state, only 9 are women. And out of all the parliaments in the world, only 13% are women. Women need to be in leadership roles. And yet sometimes, just like Esther, it's hard to step forth. And occasionally it's easier to be in those shadows, hidden from view. So my urge to you today is, just as Sheryl is talking about, to lean in, to find those opportunities to get involved. Next, I want to show a very brief clip for you from one of her TED Talks on women. And this is just a very brief clip of a longer video, but I want you to pay attention to how she compares men and women. This is an example of one of her college days.
When I was in college, my senior year, I took a course called European Intellectual History. Don't you love that kind of thing from college? Wish I could do that now. And I took it with my roommate, Carrie, who was then a brilliant literary student and went on to be a brilliant literary scholar. And my brother, smart guy, but a water polo playing pre-med who was a sophomore. The three of us take this class together. And then Carrie reads all the books in the original Greek and Latin, goes to all the lectures. I read all the books in English and go to most of the lectures. My brother is kind of busy. He reads one book of 12 and goes to a couple of lectures, marches himself up to our room a couple days before the exam to get himself tutored. The three of us go to the exam together, and we sit down, and we study, sit there for 3 hours in our little blue notebooks. Yes, I'm that old. And we walk out, and we look at each other, and we say, how'd you do? And Carrie says, boy, I feel like I didn't really draw out the main point on the Hegelian dialectic. And I say, God, I really wish I had really connected John Locke's theory of property, the philosophers that follow. And my brother says, I got the top grade in the class. You got the top grade in the class? You don't know anything. The problem with these stories is that they show what the data shows. Women systematically underestimate their own abilities. If you test men and women and you ask them questions on totally objective criteria like GPAs, men get it wrong slightly high and women get it wrong slightly low. Women do not negotiate for themselves in the workforce. A study in the last 2 years of people entering the workforce out of college showed that 57% of boys entering, or men, I guess, are negotiating their first salary, and only 7% of women. And most importantly, men attribute their success to themselves, and women attribute it to other external factors.
So what I want you to take away from this is the conviction and the belief that you can make a difference. As a woman today at OLP, I challenge you to lean in, to get involved in the causes that need to be changed, and enlist others to be part of this. I love this quote that was recently published on the Lean In website, and what Cheryl says is, in the future, there will be no female leaders. There will just be leaders. But that starts with you, and it starts with you today. So lean in, find others to become part of the causes that you think need to be shifted, for that is at the core of what transformational leadership is all about. Look to the future and figure out what that vision is. What are the issues that need to be addressed? And then put wheels on that vision and bring in others so that you can make a difference. Now, I know that you might be saying, this is huge. I'm just in high school. I'm just a teenager. So I want to take a moment and share with you some stories of some teenagers who are transformational leaders. The first one is a young woman. Her name is Allison Alstrom. At 14 years old, she saw a need for young girls who did not have the money to purchase clothing. So up in Northern California, she started her own store called Threads for Teen. Over the past couple of years, she has collected over $130,000 worth of inventory of free donated trendy clothing so that young women can come into her store and shop for clothes and walk out paying nothing. She was just recognized for the 2012 Halo Award. She's a leader and someone making a difference. The next young woman I want to recognize is Katia Gomez, a recent graduate from high school in 2005, and when she was at UCSD, took a trip down to Honduras, the third poorest country in Latin America. She saw a need for education and started her own nonprofit company called Educate to Envision. She was recently recognized as the VH1 Do Something Award winner, where she received $100,000 to help support the cause that she started. Her focus is on education, and she has started both primary and secondary schools all throughout this small community in Honduras, where the vast majority of the population is under 16 years old. And these young girls are not getting educated. She was so compelled by the book Cheryl Wu Dunn and her research on Half the Sky that talks about if you educate a girl, you educate a village. Her commitment to education is so intense that she's actually right now back there in Honduras, continuing to build schools and clubs to educate our kids. She says that if you educate children who have little, so they can envision a better future. And I share with you this quote from Cheryl Wu Dunn, which was one that really compelled Kadia to make a difference. With great fortune comes great responsibility. We've won the birth lottery, and it's our job to use the blessings we've received to help the world. So at the root of transformational leadership, though, is the how. And the how we do this is truly through servant leadership. Servant leadership is how we take care of one another, which allows us to enact that vision or that change initiative. So if transformational leadership is the what and the why, then maybe we can look at servant leadership as the how. Now, I know all of us have heard the story of Jesus and the washing of the feet, but I want to help paint this picture for you in a new way. Certainly, it's a powerful moment where Jesus gets on his knees and brings out the water jug and washes the feet of his disciples. But what we don't often talk about is why this is so significant. So I have a picture of Syria and what it would have looked like if Jesus was back in that time. And you can see that it's mountainous, it's dirty, it's dusty. And when you were back in biblical times, you didn't have cars, you didn't have carriages. Very few people even rode horses or donkeys. You walked, and you walked in sandals. So just imagine walking for hours on end in sandals in this type of climate. Your feet would be pretty dirty, yucky, crusty, cakey, disgusting, and smelly. Are you getting the picture? Okay. So when we talk about Jesus washing the feet of his disciples, it is truly an act of servanthood. A man who had stood before thousands to preach and to teach, who had taught in the synagogues and the temples. This is the man that knelt before his disciples to wash their feet, to care for them, to listen to what they needed. When we think of servant leadership, to me, that's at the core of what it means. It means knowing the needs of those around you and being willing to put yourself out. It's about being connected to the needs, the concerns, the cares of those that you are caring for. And that's at the core of what servant leadership is all about. Listening and then doing something about that. And I know that that's easier said than done because there are great deals of challenges with that. We can't help everyone, but we can certainly strive to help those in our communities and those closest to us. So when we combine these two together, it's not just about the innovation and the vision and the inspiration and the motivation, but this idea of teamwork and working together to bring about success and change. And when you combine both transformational leadership as well as servant leadership, that's where you have a powerful vision for tomorrow. And I know you do this already. These are pictures of you serving one another in communion, at Holy Eucharist, at our liturgies. It's about you tutoring one another, and I know you do that already. But I want to challenge you to think about it in even a larger sense, knowing that you can be an agent of change, and this idea that I'm urging you to lean in and make a difference. Success isn't how far you got, but the distance you traveled from where you started. That's from Proverbs. And that's what I want to leave with you today. And not to ignore the challenges, I offer up this next commercial that I think as we think about enacting change and being a leader, sometimes the challenges seem immense.
This man right here is my great-grandfather. He's the first cat herder in our family.
Herding cats. Don't let anybody tell you it's easy.
Anybody can herd cattle. Holding together 10,000 half-wild short hairs, well, that's another thing altogether.
Being a cat herder is probably about the toughest thing I think I've ever done.
I got this one this morning, right here. And if you look at his face, it's just ripped to shreds, you know?
You see the movies, you hear the stories, I'm living a dream. Not everyone can do what we do.
I wouldn't do nothing else.
It ain't an easy job. But when you bring a herd into town and you ain't lost a one of them, ain't a feeling like it.
So, I know that was a bit of a silly commercial, this idea of herding cats, but sometimes as leaders, it can awfully feel like we're herding a bunch of cats, trying to get so many different perspectives and ideas to come together to shape that vision. But when we bring others together to enact that change, that's where we see tremendous success. So, as I conclude this presentation, I leave you with these 3 images. 3 images that I hope will carry you forth as you consider being a leader in your schools and in your communities. This new vision in 2013 of what a princess really is. Someone who cares for others, someone who stands up for others, and someone who stands with others. I want you to remember Allison, who at just 14 years old started her own nonprofit, and someone like Katia Gomez, who's in Honduras right now, creating educational opportunities for these youth. And I want you to remember this. You are powerful, even beyond what you think you can do. You can make a difference, and I urge you to start today. So I leave you with a final short clip that talks about how women are making a difference. As you listen to this final video clip, I want you to cling on to any ahas that stand out for you.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day. It's a new life for me, yeah. It's a new dawn, it's a new day. It's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, and I'm feeling good. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean, don't you know? Butterflies all having fun, you know what I mean. Sleep in peace when day is done, that's what I mean. And this old world is a new world, and a bold world for me. Yeah, yeah. Stars, when you shine, you know how I feel. Scent of the pine, you know how I feel. Oh, freedom is mine, and I know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me.
So I'm not sure what quote stood out for you, but 2 that I'd like to share with you. There's one from Joan of Arc that said, "I'm not afraid. I was born to do this." And the other one is that at the root of the word impossible is I'm possible. You can make a difference. You are powerful beyond even what you think you can do. And I urge you to start every single day you walk in your school buildings. And it starts tonight. As you think about how do I begin to make a difference? How do I stand up as a leader? It's about humbly bringing yourself before God and saying, God, show me those causes I need to stand up for. Show me the things that I need to have a vision for change. And then you enlist others, care for those others, and make it happen. I wish you all a great end of the year because I know you will all be tremendous leaders. God bless.